Hey sim racing fans, today we are going to explore Europe and the cars that are offered in GT Sport. So first we're going to start with Jaguar. Anyways, so we're going to start with the showroom and then we will move over to the Vision cars. So they've got the Jaguar F-Type R Coupe, or Coupe if you want to say it that way. And this is actually a very powerful car. It's got 542 horsepower and 500 feet-pound of torque. It would be an interesting car to drive, especially being on that right-hand drive. Being a North American driver as myself, that would be an interesting time, having that interior or first-person view. Next is the E-Type from 1961. This car has 264 horsepower, 260 feet-pound of torque, and it is front-wheel drive. It's a fantastic car. It has that manual gearbox, so on that right side drive, if you've got a manual shifter on your steering wheel setup, like I do, you are going to have to move it over towards the left side, or else you are driving on the wrong side of the road. Ha ha ha. Next is the Jaguar F-Type. This is a GR4, grade 4 car. It's got 399 horsepower for $350,000. It's overpriced in my opinion. There's lots of cars that are quicker. However, this one has some great handling, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the GR3 version of the F-Type. This one has 550 horsepower. That seems a lot better. 500 feet-pound of torque, but it's almost a $500,000 car in this game. But the weight is on your side. This is a great car to drive in a race. We may just have to review it someday in further detail. This next car is a beast, especially considering it's from 1988. This is another car that I am going to have to further in detail review. Subscribe and like this video for a further review on the XJR9 from 1988. 914 horsepower, 700 feet-pound of torque. This thing is an absolute beast. Next Jaguar is the D-Type. It's from 1954. It's a bit older. With it being an older car, you're going to be in those classic races with this car. If you're looking at a track that is got lots of turns, you're going to be looking at using a car like this. It's got a little bit better handling versus the North American cars for the classics. So definitely a car to look forward to. It's only 1,800 pounds. So keep that in mind the next time you're in a classic race. Now this is the car to get if you're looking at classic race cars, especially if you're into racing classics in Gran Turismo Sport. Now this thing's got some insane handles, 2,200 pounds, XJ13 Jaguar, 1966. The only downside is the price. The price. $20 million. Good luck trying to save up for that thing. It's going to take forever. Moving over to their Vision concept, this is the future. We have a 1,000 horsepower Jaguar. It's a coupe or coupe, depending on where you're from in the world. And it is a $1 million car. That seems cheap versus the last car. Especially how it has double the horsepower. Wow, there's a lot of different manufacturers. Maybe I should have cut this down to just the United Kingdom. Because there's a lot of cars here. Aston Martin, Aston, whatever you want to call it. However which way you want to get mad at, make people mad, it doesn't really matter. This one's the V8 Vantage S. I personally like Aston Martin cars. I applied when I was younger to be an Aston Martin salesperson out in Oakville, Mississauga area, and I never got that job. Anyways, 429 horsepower, 360 feet-pound of torque. This thing is a nice car, but definitely not one that I would pick for races. Next is the Aston Martin DB11. This is the car, if you are looking to become a spy, this is the car you're going to want to drive. 599 horsepower, 516 feet-pound of torque. It is a whopping 3,900 pounds, so good luck trying to stop that on a racetrack. That's a heavy car, but pretty much every Aston Martin is a heavy car. Check, for example, the Aston Martin Vantage. It's a GR4 car, almost 3,000 pounds. There are a lot lighter GR4 cars, but this car is pretty good at handling if you've got soft tires. But pretty much anything has good handling when it's got soft tires, so keep that in mind. Now this is the car I really like. This is the V12 Vantage. Yes, it's a GT3 car, 2012. It's a nice 2,700 pounds at 500 horsepower. This thing, if you're a beginner driver, this would be the car to drive in GR3, GT3 type races. Now we're going to move over to the DBR9 GT1 from 2010. If you're looking for a race car, this is a pretty average race car with pretty good handling, 599 horsepower, pretty well 500 feet-pound of torque, and it's only 2,400 pounds. These cars are getting lighter as we are talking. Now, if you're looking for an overall power car when it comes to street-type races, 748 horsepower for the Aston Martin 177 is a great car. It's from 2011. We're going to move on because it's $1.75 million. Now, if you're looking for a car with a really cool name, or if you're a Star Trek fan, Aston Martin Vulcan is the car to get. 820 horsepower, 590 feet-pound of torque, and the width of the car is 81 inches, so it's going to be... That's a pretty wide car, and it's a pretty cool looking car too. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind driving that in real life, but I doubt that I will ever be able to afford a $3.3 million car, but we can make that change. If you hit that like button and subscribe to this video, maybe we can get these cars in real life. And then, for probably a car my dad would probably like, the Aston Martin DB3S, from 1953, and it's $10 million. For a classic car, you can do better. Now for the futuristic alien type looking car from Aston Martin. This is their Vision car. This is going to be their future race car, probably, maybe, I don't know. It's got 799 horsepower, so it's not touching anywhere close to those 1,000 horsepower beasts that people are thinking of, or these companies are thinking of. But it would be interesting. This guy's torque is insane. It's four-wheel drive, so it's going to be getting handling around the corner. If you can take off your traction control, you can probably do some nice power slides, and that's probably what I would do in that car. So moving over to McLaren, which is a car company that I would probably say is one of the richest yet poorest companies in the world when it comes to cars, mainly because they've called for bankruptcy so many times and they're calling for it again. But they got this one, the MP4 12C McLaren 2010 car, 600 horsepower, 465 feet-pound of torque. It's an average car, same as the 650S. When it comes to supercars, these cars are not anything special, but their looks are definitely special. I like the looks of McLaren. 640 horsepower, 500 feet-pound of torque. Another 650S. This is a GR4 car, and what we're looking at is 399 horsepower, but still a very sexy looking car. Now the McLaren F1. This is one of my favorite McLarens, and this is the GTR. I'm not going to say the name of the racing company because I would butcher that name. But it's a car from 1995, and it's got 600 horsepower, and again, one of my favorite cars. So many 650Ss. This is a GT3 car, 500 horsepower, 379 feet-pound of torque, $500,000. Now for the true McLaren F1 from 1994. This is the car that Elon Musk rode off without insurance. That's gotta suck. But he's got the money, and now he's got rocket ships. So that all worked out for him. 626 horsepower, 480 feet-pound torque. This thing's a monster. I really like this car. You sit in the middle, and it's $1 million, just like in real life. But I bet in real life, if you had a real one of these in pristine condition, you're probably looking at a hell of a lot more than $1 million. Now, this is the car that I really, really like to drive. It's one of their vision cars. The McLaren Ultimate Vision car. It's got 930 horsepower, but when it comes to vision races, I don't use anything other than the Dodge. That's just me. When you got 2,500 horsepower, this doesn't really matter how many times you crash. You're going to win anyways. And then the McLaren P1, which is probably the easiest car to handle out of all the McLarens. Basically 1,000 horsepower. It's a fast car, $3.5 million car. Yeah, it's expensive, it's fast, it's fun. Buy this car. 100% buy this car. Like, if you haven't paused this video and hit the like button, subscribe, and bought this car already, you need to go and buy this car right now. Has anyone ever actually bought this car in real life? Or, like, in the game? Let me know. Comment below. Oh, Volkswagen, Volkswagen, Volkswagen. You're going to hate me for this, but whoever drives a Volkswagen seems to always like to cut me off on the highway. And I like to say nobody knows how to drive a Volkswagen. So we're going to skip through this. Volkswagen Golf, 100 horsepower. Another Golf with 200 horsepower. These are not race cars. There's this one, which is basically a go-kart. Volkswagen 1200 from 1966. It has a fantastic 33 horsepower. Basically a lawnmower. And then we have the bus. Fluffy likes the bus. Again, 33 horsepower, so don't think you're going to win any races with this. And then we've got the, I'm going to butcher that name, the Sakako, whatever it is. Either way, there's many other better cars than this. Maybe I just don't like Volkswagen. I'm not going to lie, their Vision car looks kind of cool, but yeah, there's still so many more better Vision cars. 500 horsepower. It seems like they really cut back on the horsepower and the torque on pretty much every Volkswagen. This is the only Volkswagen I really actually like. It's the Volkswagen Beetle GR3 race car. And yeah, that looks cool. Come on. I like the old school Volkswagen Beetles too, that are like, what's his name? The Herbie the Love Bug. Yes. This and Herbie the Love Bug, those are the only Volkswagens I like. So if you like Volkswagen and I offended you, comment below that I offended you. Anyways, next. Okay, on to Mercedes. Funny story time about Mercedes. This is really funny. I had a guy pull up to me at a red light, and I was driving my Mustang. It's not exactly stock. And he pulls up next to me in a Mercedes, one of those, like, actually here, one of these things. And he thought he could win a race. Somehow I beat him by a lot. And he got pissed off and said, that can't be a 4-cylinder in there. It's a V8. And he said, there's no such thing as a V8 Mustang, in a very thick Asian accent. And yeah, anyways, going on with this video. These are Mercedes. They're not really going to do too much until you get to the end of this list. You're going to really like to drive this one. This one's a lot of fun in the GR4 class, but this is the one it's this one. This is the one I really like to drive in this game. It's worth $500,000, so it's overpriced for what it is, but the handling is really nice. It's got 613 horsepower. It's the AMG Team HTP Motorsport from a car from 2016. It'd be fun to drive in real life as well, I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of fun. Now, this is the car that I'm saving up for. They're $2 million. I'm almost there. I'm at $1.7 million in this game. We need an F1 car, and we need to get some F1 races done. So, of course, I'm going to love Mercedes. Mercedes is really nice cars. I just don't like the people who say that they are the number one car in the world, because everyone has their own opinions, but there's in some classes better cars. For F1, there isn't. And then if you're looking to race some classic races, we have the Mercedes 300 SEL 6.8 AMG from 1971. 422 horsepower, but it is 3,600 pounds. Anyways, going on to the next dealer. I should actually mention really quickly, they do have some Vision cars. They've got one Vision car. This one's really nice. It's got 576 horsepower, but this is my personal favorite. I really like the look of that thing. I would love to own that in real life, but of course it's a Vision car, so they don't exist in real life. These are just things that the companies say that they're looking to aim to do. But this is a 590 horsepower car, 600 feet-pound of torque. The one thing that sells me on this car is the looks. I really like the looks. So we have a few BMWs here. We have some low horsepower, 300 horsepower BMW M3 400. M4 is a 400 horsepower car. We have a Z8, which is 400 horsepower. Then we have an M3 from 1989. That's like the go-to banker car from the 90s. And then we've got the BMW M4 current GR4 car. Again, looks more like an accountant's car to me than a race car, but it has a roll cage and it's got 400 horsepower, so I bet that would be a lot of fun. And then we've got the BMW Z4. That looks kind of cool. Looks like it's got a wide body kit, which it does. It's a GT3 car, 2011, 500 horsepower. I've just never been a huge BMW fan when it comes to everyday cars, but for race cars, they definitely know how to build a race car. Then we have an M3 GT class car. Again, really nice with 500 horsepower. We have a close to 600 horsepower BMW M6. I've raced this car a few times in this game. That's the PlayStation car. That's the Gran Turismo car. That's the car to buy. If you haven't hit that like button and subscribed yet, this is the car that you need to hit that like button and subscribe with. And then we have the M-Power livery M6. I really like the looks of this car. Maybe it's just the livery, but I really like BMW race cars. They're kind of cool. They got carbon fiber everywhere, so that's just me. And this is the BMW Vision car for $1 million, 540 horsepower. For Vision cars, again, if it doesn't have 1,000 horsepower, I just don't buy it. But if it's given to me for free in the game, I will take it. Over to Audi. Audi's got some regular street cars like the Coupe 3.2 liter Quattro. Then we have the TTS, the R8. Now we're getting into the cars that I like. And then the TT Cup car. That's kind of cool. 335 horsepower. The R8 has 414 horsepower. The 1987 Pikes Peak Audi is kind of cool. That's a really nice car to go drifting on rally races with. It's got 600 horsepower. It's a beast. But now we're getting into the actual real, what I call the real R8s. And this is the R8 LMS from the Audi sports team. And it's got basically 600 horsepower, 400 feet-pound of torque. So acceleration out of the corners, not the greatest, but it still handles the corners amazingly. And then we've got the TDI, and again, $1 million, 500 horsepower. Personally, for $1 million, I want 1,000 horsepower. And then we have the Audi sports team again with the R18. This car's got 500 horsepower. Audi has two Vision cars. Both of them look pretty cool. I personally prefer the right one better. It's got more horsepower. It's also a bit heavier, so a little bit harder to slow down and come to a stop, especially when you're coming around corners, down a hill, that kind of a thing. But there's not really that much of a difference in weight when it comes to the amount of power. And then it also, not to mention, has a heck of a lot more torque as well coming out of those corners. Mini has two Mini Cooper S's, one from 1965 that's got 64 horsepower, one from 2005 that has 160 horsepower, but you're looking at a car that weighs 2,600 pounds, which is a lot for 160 horsepower. And then they've got the Mini, again, as their vision car. No surprise, this is the Clubman. 380 horsepower for something that weighs 2,300 pounds. Not too shabby, but again, for a vision car, if you're in vision races, it's going to get smacked by a lot of the North American stuff. Now we're getting into the Porsches. My dad's not a huge fan of the Porsches. I am, however, a fan of the GT3 RS, which is this guy, and it's got some power to it, almost 500 horsepower for $250,000, so not too bad. There are some other Porsches that they've got, basically street cars. The Taycan Turbo, that one's the one that everyone kind of talks about. 750 horsepower for $250,000. I personally say that's a good buy. It says ... for max feet-pound of torque. I guess nobody really knows. Maybe nobody knows. Anyways, fast car either way. I might just have to review that car in one of our videos. Comment below if you want me to review the Taycan Turbo S. Now moving over, the GT4, not bad. Then we have the the Porsche 911. I remember the 911s from the 90s or whenever I was a kid. I think it was the 80s. This one over here. 911. What year is that? 2001? No, where is it? This one. 81. Yeah, those ones were the ones that I used to pick in other racing games when I was a kid. They tend to go really fast and corner really well. And then, then we're getting into the true race cars. This one's 1,800 pounds. 600 horsepower, handles like a beast. And then we're getting into the Carrera Speedster. This is a car that's on a lot of people's hit list of wanting to buy in real life. It's worth a whopping $1.2 million for a car that's got 100 horsepower. So it's not on my list to buy. Roof, rough, whatever you want to call it. They only have one car. It's worth $600,000 for 690 horsepower, 650 feet-pound of torque. It's kind of a cool car, but really it's kind of interesting in the fact that they only have one car. And personally, the looks don't look any different than an Audi. I would love to know your opinion down below. And now we've got Renault. They've got a couple of street cars. Nothing really hugely special until you get to the end. There's their GR4 car, 350 horsepower, GT3, 530 horsepower, and that thing looks like a beast. I really like the looks of that car. The car looks sick. Same as this car. This car looks insanely amazing, insanely fast with the wide body kit. 540 horsepower, 460 feet-pound of torque. There's so many cars I would like to go into further depth, but we just have so many cars to really break down that it's insane how many cars this game has. And hopefully Gran Turismo 7 has the same amount of cars or more. That would be cool. Hopefully we can actually get some really cool kind of upgrades and things like this. Now, I'm Canadian, North American. How in the world do you say this name? Peugeot? Peugeot? I'm going to piss off somebody either way. So they've got a couple of street cars. This one looks really cool. It's their vision car. And for almost $500,000, $500, I'm losing my voice, my mind, my brain. There's so many European cars. Why did I not do the Asian cars now? Anyways, 540 horsepower. This thing is kind of cool looking. Same as this one. Kind of cool, but not massively fast. We don't get massively fast cars until the end, and that's the 908. 700 horsepower. 885 feet-pound of torque. Can't really beat that. That's a nice car. Now, getting into their 2017 Vision car, $1 million, 700 horsepower. What you're getting here is the lightweight with pretty solid numbers when it comes to horsepower and torque. So what the weight is going to do for you is allow you to accelerate even faster. And let's face it, Red Bull on the side of the car, that sells it for me. Let's face it. If you haven't smacked the subscribe button yet, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Now, again, I'm not European, but Citroen, I don't know, just whatever it is, just make names easy to say. Streetcar, more streetcars. It's a road car. Next, GR4 car. Not a car that I race, but I own it because I was given it by GT Sport. Thank you. And then there's a GR3 race car, which I need to review someday, and I don't have in my arsenal. It's 599 horsepower. It's 2,600 pounds, so quite heavy versus other cars. But when it comes to GR3 cars, the power is there. It's a cool car. I'm not going to lie, I've never heard of this car company until I started playing Gran Turismo Sport. Alpine, I've never heard of, but their cars look quite average. I guess it's just a European brand. They got like 100 horsepower. Their Vision car, however, looks kind of cool. Not extremely fast, but does look cool. Now we're getting into the expensive cars. The Bugatti Veyron. In this game, it's only $350,000, but let's face it, that's a really extremely expensive car in real life. This one's got 433 horsepower. It's a GR4 car. The GR1 car has 640 horsepower, and it's worth $1 million. And then there's the Bugatti Veyron 16.4 from 2013. This is a beast. 986 horsepower, and it's not a Vision car. So this is the car to buy, but it's $2 million. But the interior looks so sick. Look at that. Bugatti. Seriously, give me a test drive in real life. Now, if you're looking for a fun car to drive, a fast car to drive, and you're not into the American stuff, the Bugatti Vision car is the way to go. 1,600 horsepower, 1,300 feet-pound of torque, and it weighs 3,000 pounds. And let's face it, that car looks sick. And Renault has one car. It's got 100 horsepower, $80,000. There's more better cars than that. There's the Alphas. I always have enjoyed looking at the Alfa Romeos. They always seem to be so small, and then I went to a car show and looked at it, and then the person who was there said, "You'll never fit in one." So I said, "Well, see ya." And yeah, they look kind of cool. I like them. I like small cars with ridiculous horsepower, and these guys are small cars, and the only one that has ridiculous horsepower is the race car. So personally, I can't wait until I build one day in the future a Mazda Miata with a 5-liter twin turbo. We're going to try and get that thing up to 1,300 horsepower, 1,400 horsepower, and something that weighs absolutely nothing. I will be replacing almost all the body panels with carbon fiber to get as light as possible because, of course, let's get stupid power in something that weighs nothing. On to Ferrari. Ferrari gets mad at anyone who likes to change anything on their cars. So we can go through these and try not to change anything on the cars. So they've got some cars that are regular street cars. They got the F40 that apparently is horrible at handling. We could try that in the game someday. It's got 470 horsepower from 1992. Actually, in classic car races, that would be kind of cool. Next is their race cars. We'll eventually get to their race cars. These are all the cars that they've got. There's the F50. And now we're getting into more like the race cars. This is an old race car from way back in the day. And $20 million is a heck of a lot of money. Now we're getting into Lamborghini. Lamborghini does not care if you change their car at all. However, there's the Huracan, there's the Diablo. These are all really cool cars. I haven't done any reviews on any of these cars, but someday I just might, because I really like the Veneno. It's worth $3.6 million, and guess what? Gran Turismo Sport gave me this car for free. For free! Yes! And I will probably review it. 700 horsepower. I think I got mine in the game up to like 900 horsepower. For the limited amounts of upgrading that they allow you to do. So yeah, that's that. And then there's this cool Vision car. I like the looks of that. It looks kind of cool. And then there's the Pantera. Richard Rawlings really likes this car, and they did a rebuild. And it has 320 horsepower, but I think theirs had like 600, so I like theirs better. Fiat, also known as Chrysler. Let's see what they've got. They've cut, oh, I'm not buying. Oh, no. 16 horsepower and 65 horsepower. If you want to lose a race, these are the cars to buy. Abarth, also known as Fiat. They've got some pretty cool cars. They've got the Fiat Abarth 500. This car is really cool in real life. It sounds really good if you have a nice muffler on it in real life as well. I know somebody who has one, and they sound fantastic. However, they only have 130 horsepower. So, yeah. So there is Lancia. Nothing really hugely special. However, they have the Stratos, and that just looks like a Ferrari to me. Now we've got the Pagnanis. Probably said that wrong. Again, my North American tongue doesn't like certain names. This is the one I would love to have in this game someday. The Pagani, whatever, Pagani, whatever you want to call it, Zonda. This is the car that turned a lot of heads when Top Gear was reviewing it. And I really liked how the Stig drove it, and it was a lot of fun of a video. And 700 horsepower, you can't turn down that, especially when it's from 2009. Maserati, the company that's known in North America as having the most expensive repairs because their wiring systems are special. And for 430 horsepower, yeah, it'd be a fun car to drive. I'm not going to lie. 160,000 credits? We might just have to review this someday. And last but not least, the last car in the European fleet. The Expo, or what I would rather say and call it, is a go-kart on steroids. 900, or not 900. I've lost my mind. There's so many European cars. 298 horsepower, 295 feet-pound of torque, and something that weighs essentially zero. That would be a fun car, vehicle, go-kart, whatever you want to call it. Be fun to drive. I've only seen one once, ever, when I went to a track, and then it was there for a second, and then somebody who I guess works there drove it away because nobody was driving it that day. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.